This is the January 27, 2014 meeting of the Revere City Council. Please rise and salute the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call of the members. Councilor Rigo?
Here.
Here. Councilor Janino?
Here.
Here. Councilor Guanasso?
Here.
Here. Councilor Haas? Here. Here. Councilor Morbido? Here. Councilor Novoselsky? Here. Councilor Patch?
Here.
Here. Councilor Penta is absent. Councilor Powers?
Here.
Here. Councilor Reardon?
Here.
Here. Council President Zambudo?
Here.
Here. A quorum is present. Approval of the journals of the meeting of December 16th, 2013, December 27th, 2013.
Any corrections? Changes? All in favor, all opposed? So voted.
Calendar item number 1, joint meeting of Verizon, Comcast, and National Grid to discuss ongoing utility work.
Gentlemen, it's my understanding that Tim Kelly from Comcast couldn't make it this evening, so you two will have to cover for him.
Stan Yusevich, Verizon, with offices at 63 High Street in Danvers. Mr. President, members of the council, the past month has been very productive for us. We've extracted 49 double poles, lowering the number, and we'll continue to keep an eye on the list as we go forward. Currently, Verizon has 11 ball and quartz, and there are 161 double poles. I know that my colleague from National Grid has some comments as well.
Dan?
Dan Cameron, National Grid offices at 170 Medford Street in Malden. And also happy to report we had a decent month. We're moving in the right direction, and I think we've come off about 15 poles since we were last here. And starting Monday, we're going to have 2 crews dedicated to transferring poles, but within the city of Revere, to get this done.
Fantastic. Councilors? Councilor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. President. Stan, if I may address this to yourself, I know we spoke today about that pole on Library Street.
Yes.
And it's my understanding that Everett Bryant would get that expedited as quick as possible. The other one I'm concerned about is back on Rice Avenue, to make sure that the easement is signed, notarized, and back to you people so that we can get that done as quickly as possible.
What I'll do, Councilor, is I'll find out exactly where that Rice Avenue easement is and give you a call, give you an update. The Library Street pole that you mentioned, I talked to Dan about. It's in his ball and court.
Okay.
So that will be taken up, I'm sure, by National Grid as soon as they
Is that something Dan, is that something we can get moving along very quickly? People have a concern because it's set on a couple of pieces of brick down there. And okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Powers. Mr. Vice President Guanasso.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just publicly want to thank Stan Yusevich for the assistance he gave me a couple of weeks ago in reference to, I was out without a phone for 5 or 6 days, and they told me I'd have to wait another 3 days, and I made an urgent call to Stan. It's the first one I've ever made to him. I needed help. My constituents obviously would need service during the coldest days, and I wanted to be available to them. And with Stan's great help, I had help, and the very next morning I had phone service, and I publicly want to thank you. And I also want to thank you for all the removal of all the poles in Ward 3. We're really hitting some good numbers there, and it's the fine efforts that you yourself and Dan cooperating with the City Council, coming up once a month and reviewing our concerns. You're making our city aesthetically valuable again. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Guanasso. Councilor Novoselsky.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, through either one of the gentlemen, I know we spoke before But I want to bring up Blake Street, pole 1169. That's already been done, so you can take it off your list. Because that was just a transfer of a street light, and they did it and took the pole down at the same time, I guess. I see you have 2 new ones on here, actually 3 new ones, Campbell Ave, Charles Ave, and Shirley Ave. You know, I know they have to take their course, but I hope at least the one on the Shirley Ave, that's a pretty busy intersection. I hope we can expedite that one. It's 591. I'm still after Dan on that North Shore Road, 1526. You know, we're on 6 years on that one, where there's been no movement on it. So I hope we can work on that one. Ocean Avenue at 312. It shows a fiber, but I know there's nothing on it, so if we can check that one out. And the one on the Revere Ridge Parkway, number 48, you know, take that one, work on that one. And other than that, I think we're all set, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Novoselsky. Councilor Reardon.
Thank you, Mr. President. I did note that there has been visually some progress made, particularly on that really onerous one down on Page Street that was hanging all over the place. But I have to mention that I see here on Vane Street there are 4 of them. I know they're still there, and I know they've been there since, well, according to my records here, since July. That's a good 6 months that those poles have been kind of stuck there, and I don't see any progress at all, according to the what I've received from you guys. So I'm just hoping that we can. I know the construction season is difficult. I mean, this season is just difficult, but we are coming on the construction season, and I'm certainly hoping that that we will start moving a little bit on some of these ones that seem to be stuck in neutral here for the 6 months that these have. Although, like I said, as I said, I do note there is some progress on some poles. So I'm glad to hear that there's 2 crews coming in. Hopefully they'll work the job.
Yeah, I'll make sure that they, we'll address these certainly this month. We'd like to stay on one street, so I've circled these to get moving on next month.
Any other councilors? Well, I'll just simply say that this is a far cry from the way things used to be years ago when I was pounding the table up here about double poles. This cooperation has worked out wonderfully. I want to thank you for your efforts, and we're working like a team. National Grid and Verizon and Comcast, and it's really working, and I'm very happy about it. Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Calendar item number 2, hearing called is ordered on the awning application for Quick Food Store, 307 Revere Street.
Proponents. Name and address for the record, please.
Yes, my name is MD Rahman. We are applying for awning sign on 307 Revere Street. This corner is really dark, so I think sign will help some. Lately we have problems with all crimes, so I hope you will approve my application.
I'm having a little bit of trouble understanding you. Did you get that, Madam Clerk?
I think his name is included on the application, so.
Okay. I'm not sure I got the second part of it. Do you want to explain to us what you're doing here?
How you doing? My name is Louis Francis, and I'm the contractor of the signs and awnings that we're doing for this store. What he was trying to say that we want to make this this awnings that run all around the corner to, you know, we're going to illuminate, we're going to add light to it, so it's going to be visibility for the drivers and for the customers walking by the sidewalks, and it's going to decrease the crime that had happened in that store in the previous months.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Any other proponents? Hearing and seeing none, I'll close that side of the hearing. Any opponents? People opposed to this proposal? Hearing and seeing none, close that side of the hearing. Councilors, Councilor Guanasso.
Thank you, Mr. President. This happens to be in my ward,
Aye.
and this is exactly across from the old Maggio's restaurant. I don't, per se, have a concern with the sign, but I was waiting for the opportunity to meet you gentlemen, or you, the owner,
Yes.
to voice my displeasure about the machine I see inside your store. And it seems to me, from the naked eye, without any investigation, that that's a gaming tool. And I'm not very pleased with that being
No,
on
it's gone
Revere
already.
Street. It's gone already?
Yeah, it is.
It was there this afternoon.
Yeah, it's supposed to be gone because I called the vendor who put it in, and he's supposed to take it out by this weekend.
Why did you tell him to take it out?
Because it's not worth it. I mean, we got more problems.
Not working? Every time I went in that store to make a purchase, I saw someone on it. So, I mean, and that's what I didn't like. I'm not against gaming, as everyone in the world knows, but I am against it in the neighborhood stores. And I just find
Yeah,
that that's...
I appreciate for the concern. I really
And
do.
so now you told me it's supposed to be out today. Will that be out tomorrow morning when I go by there to check?
Yes, yes.
It will be.
Yeah.
Well, I will, and you said about the crime
Yeah,
in the
lately
area?
we had, because the Mazu is closed.
Yes.
And corner is really dark, and the robber came, just before the closing, and we got like 3 incidents and 12 deaths.
Right.
So it's really concern us. We have to brighten up the neighborhood instead of the crime.
Have you made any arrangements with the police department over this concern of yours?
Yes, actually they've been there undercover, so they try to catch the.
Because that's when I would like to get involved, because I take offense to anybody that's creating crime, in not only in our city, but especially in Ward 3. But this is right on Revere Street, and it's a major thoroughfare for our community and other visitors throughout our city.
Yes.
So if there's activity going on there in a criminal manner, I have to know about it.
Yeah, actually I put out 2 employees there and then that time, so prevent any kind of occurrence happen again.
Okay, so I have your assurance. Do you have a phone number that you could leave with the city clerk and your name so that I will have a direct contact with you
Sure.
in case I have concerns in the future?
Yes,
Would you please give that prior to your leaving?
yes, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other councilors? Hearing and seeing none. What's the will of the council?
I make a
Councilor
motion
Barraza.
to approve based on the contingency on the fact that that machine is removed.
Do we
Upon
need a roll call
inspection,
for
if that is removed, then I would ask this city revoke the permission to do this.
Okay, we're going to vote to approve this on the condition that was stated by Council Vice President. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Shall the City Council approve the awning application for a quick food store at 307 Revere Street, subject to the removal of the gaming machine? Councilor Rigo?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Janino?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Hass? Yes. Yes. Councilor Morabito?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Patch?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Penza is absent. Councilor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Reardon?
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes. The awning application has been approved.
Thank you.
Calendar item number 3, hearing called is ordered on the awning application for Antonella's 744 Broadway.
Proponents, please.
Yes, Mr. President, members of the council, Joseph Cottogio, 1 Sprague Street, Revere, representing Antonella's, the applicant before you, seeking approval of an awning application for its restaurant at 744 Broadway, which also corners Revere Street as well. The applicant has completed renovations to the property with the guidance of the building department, the fire department, the Board of Health. All permits have been signed off. They have purchased the required bond for this awning and presented it to the clerk's office, and are otherwise ready to go and looking forward to opening this coming weekend. If we have approval, we're seeking your approval tonight and can answer any questions that you have. Thank you.
Any other proponents? Hearing and seeing none, we'll close that side of the hearing. Any opponents? People opposed to this proposal? Hearing and seeing none, we'll close that side of the hearing. Councilor Guanasso.
Thank you, Mr. President. This again is in Ward 3, and it's right at the corner of Revere Street and Broadway. I have absolutely no reason to deny this particular application. I think so far that Antonella's Restaurant has proven to be that they're going to do the area over well. I just hope that the food is as good as she said it was going to be, and I look forward to testing that food. Even though I'm trying, I tell my family that I'm on a diet, but I'm really kidding them. But I'm anxious to taste her food because I know she's going to be a first-class person in that area, and I look forward to her being very successful at that location. Thank you, Mr. President. No objections to the input.
Thank you, Councilor Guanasso. Councilor Novoselsky.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to the attorney. I remember when we gave a special permit several months ago, there was an issue about handicap accessibility. Is there?
I don't believe so. I think everything's been signed off.
Well, I didn't ask that. I want to know if there's handicap accessibility into the facility.
Yes, is it?
Hi, I'm Louis Rubino. There is a handicap ramp and a handicap accessible bathroom.
Okay, because I didn't see it when I was in the vicinity the other day.
On the left side of the building.
On the left side of the building, looking on Broadway
It's got
side.
its own door, handicap door.
Okay, good, thank you.
Any other councilors? Not to be the skunk at the garden party. We have in the past allowed these approvals to go forward in spite of the fact that the work has already been done. Just for the edification of people coming up here in the future, I'm not going to be that lenient anymore. I want to see people come up, get approval, and finish the story. I'm very happy with the work they've done there. I'm not looking to single you out. I'm just doing this for the edification of people in the future, that we are going to be a little stricter than we have been in the past. So I wish them well because they've done a nice job in that corner. We're very happy and looking forward to eating their wonderful food. Thank you. Okay, on the motion to approve.
Shall the City Council approve the awning application for Antonella's at 744 Broadway? Councilor Rigo?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Gino? Yes. Councilor Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Hass?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Morbido?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Patch?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Penta is absent. Councilor Powers? Yes. Councilor Reardon?
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes. The awning application has been approved. Calendar item number 4, hearing called is ordered on the application of 29 Thayer Avenue Development, LLC, 35 Gove Street, Boston, Mass., requesting permission from the Revere City Council to construct a planned unit development comprising of 42 residential condominium units within the light industrial district at 29 Thayer Ave, Revere, Mass.
Proponents, name and address, please.
Mr. President, honorable members, James Cipolletta, 385 Broadway, Revere, attorney for the petitioner and the applicants. Mr. President, with your leave, may I pass up some of these
City Clerk.
satellite photographs? I apparently did not have enough of them in the file, but I think it might be referred to by the engineer during the course of the hearing. Thank you, Madam Clerk. And Mr. President, thank you. This is a proposal by the owners of the property for a 42-unit residential condominium development in the light industrial zone. We are seeking a special permit, as we were directed here by the Site Plan Review Committee, which had vetted this proposal over the course of, I believe, three different hearings. It was, at that time, determined that we do not need any other or further relief, such as from the Board of Appeals for parking or dimensional regulations, so forth. These 42 units would be accommodated on 3 floors of living space. We had initially proposed over 60 units. We knew that when we came out the back end of the Site Plan Review Committee, and as a result of some of the polling of the neighborhood and speaking with others who were interested, knew that that would not be acceptable or warmly welcomed. So we went back to the drawing board and came up with a plan that the councilors have before you this evening, which is for 42 units. They're primarily, no, they are all 1 and 2 bedroom units. They are small units. And what the developer owner is targeting is that as a result of his experience in his market research, knows that there is a vast need by young professionals who might work in Boston or work part-time at home and need a 1-bedroom unit with maybe an office or a den. Also for empty nesters who have, whose children have moved on, the grandchildren are older, and they don't want to live on 2 stories or 2-floor houses, take care of the lawn and all of the rest. Well, he knows this by his experience because we did the Atlantis Marina project over in Winthrop. Now that, granted, is a much larger project than what we're proposing here, but it does have some common detail and elements, such as making the marina and the condominium one project. So the plan would be to develop the marina in concert with refurbishing that entire light industrial lot, which is an absolute mess, was a mess when he bought it. He's done what he can to keep it and keep up with it, but the nature of the location and the uses that are allowed there place restrictions on his ability to do exactly what he wants to do. But he wants to be a good neighbor and believes that this is something that can work in that neighborhood. I know that there are going to be some issues because we've talked about it at the Site Plan Review Committee. I've talked about it with other members of the professional staff here in City Hall. They want to talk about density. Is this project too dense? I think not, because it's been whittled down to just about where it will work or will not work with the 42 units, bearing in mind that they are small units and would be in a very compact but elegant type of an edifice, which would be take advantage of the city views or the water views and so forth. We are also mindful and very sensitive to the issue of flooding. The engineer will address that in detail. We've been through this with the city engineer, with the director of community development, the chairman of the planning board, all of the professional staff in the city, because we know, having been also down this road with the Ocean Club and with other developments down there, what the challenges are in building on that part, in that part of the city, with the proximity to the Pines River and also to Revere Beach and the Atlantic Ocean. The traffic engineer, unfortunately, is not able to be here this evening. We do know that that is going to be an issue that people are going to raise. We did hear it at the neighborhood meeting. We heard it from the city's professional staff. Being that there are 42 units of residential uses, that is much less than what ordinarily you would expect from a light industrial zone or in a proposal. And I believe that, if my memory serves me correctly, there had been a proposal a few years ago down there for 100 plus units, which probably was never going to be workable, but we went to school on them. We took away some of the comments that the neighbors had, that the ward councilor had, and others who were involved in that, and got a pretty good head start on what we would need to do to address traffic, access, egress, the times of day that people leave and come home. Certainly, this is not the kind of a use where, let's say, it would, like a theater or a restaurant or a ball field, where everybody comes at the same time and everybody leaves at the same time. We didn't find that to be the case over at Atlantis, and we don't think we're going to find that to be the case here, especially where this is so accessible to public transportation. Quick hop to Boston, quick hop to the North Shore. Whether you drive in to that new parking facility over in Wonderland Park and get on the T or drive all the way in. People generally don't leave all at the same time. So that's something that I believe Rick Salvo can address to a small degree, but the traffic engineer will be available for the proceedings that will continue and follow on after this at the subcommittee. What do we plan to do with the marina? Well, the marina was at one time a very good working marina, and there's a lot of the neighbors down there and in parts of the Pines and on the other side of North Shore Road take advantage of being able to launch and dock their boats at that marina. There were active lobster and fishing activities there, where the lobstermen would come and take off early in the morning, unload their catch later in the morning and so forth. That's the kind of a thing, a little vibrancy and a little bit of energy to that part of the navigable waterway. But over the course of the years where the marina has been, not to the fault of the current owner, but over the course of the years where the marina had been either neglected or had been ravaged by the weather, the ice, the storms, the high tides, needs to be rebuilt. And he wants to rebuild that and sell those or lease them in conjunction with the people who buy the units. They would be number one priority. Number two priority would be the residents of the area. And we've talked about that from day one. And in our discussions with the City of Revere and the professional staff and the people at Community Development, we've been asked also if we could repair and revitalize that launch ramp that's down there. And it apparently was used as a neighborhood launch ramp for a number of years. It's not something that's a commercial launch ramp. It's something that where if you have a 19-foot whaler or you have a 17-foot outboard, you can pop it in there, be on your way, pick it up later, and after a day out on the water. That, I believe, is run or owned by the city, has been neglected either by DCR or the City of Revere, but is in horrible shape. And we had committed over the course of the discussions with the city to upgrade that and maintain it on behalf of the residents and the neighbors in that part of the ward. We understand that there are some individuals during the course of our discussion who don't want anything to happen there. We also understand that there are other individuals who would like something to happen there, but not necessarily this. And the owners have done their best to make sure that whatever they do, that the mitigation is maximized so that the effect to the neighborhood is minimized. And those three issues, the parking, the traffic, the flooding, and the density, were all taken into account when they had the architect and the engineers come up with these plans that you have before you. We believe that it is a good project for the city, a good project for the community, a good project for the neighborhood, and takes best advantage of what Revere has. And Revere has a lot of things to its advantage that may not have been maximized over the years. And one of the things, it's navigable waterways and its waterfront. We're just seeing some resurgence and some recuperation along Revere Beach. And the Pines River, and the yacht clubs are upgrading, the marinas are upgrading, the casino is coming up over the horizon. And these are the things that a host community can boast about, that you have a marina now that's been refurbished. We have some young professionals who are in a new building, not overburdening the municipal services, not overburdening the schools, not overburdening the neighborhood around it, but have something that is a comfortable and good fit with the ward and with the City of Revere. Mr. President, with the permission of the chair, might I ask Rick Salvo from Engineering Alliance to get into the more technical details. I know that this is not the place to get really down in the weeds with some of this because we'll be at the subcommittee.
I would ask you to be as brief as possible with your presentation, as it is going to go to the zoning subcommittee, and then you're going to do a full-blown, and there'll be a lot of questions there tonight. And before we get to the opponents, I know there are going to be a lot of opponents. I'm not going to let everybody speak. We're going to select 1, 2, maybe 3 spokespersons, and everybody else can raise their hand, because we could be here till 11 at night, and we're not going to do that. So I just want to, before we get to that stage of this hearing, I just want to make everybody aware that we're going to go down that road. So if you want to select some spokesmen, that would be the proper way to go.
Mr. President and Madam Clerk, would it be appropriate would this microphone move down to the end, or would it still,
Yes.
still pick up? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the council, again, for the record, my name is Rick Salvo with Engineering Alliance. We are the site civil engineer for this project. So I guess with your permission, I'll just go through sort of a very brief overview of the way the site lays out, some of the existing conditions, some of the features, and then we can turn it back for questions and comments.
Go right
ahead. Up on the board here is sort of an overview. I know a lot of people don't always relate very well to engineered drawings, and we often find these as very useful tools to describe sites. Thayer Avenue is located over here, Mills Avenue here, Hayes Avenue along the bottom over here, and obviously the Pines River at the top. This is the existing building that's located at 29 Thayer Ave, which is currently used as the boat repair facility. And as you can see, this particular aerial photograph was circa 2008, and you can see all the storage on the subject property. This particular property is about 50,000 square feet in area, has about 250 feet of frontage on Thayer Avenue, has about 200 feet of frontage on Hayes Avenue, and as well as on the Pines River. So this gives you an idea of the layout of the building and the parking. So access to the site would be via this driveway here and this driveway here closer to the Pines River. Access would go underneath the building, where there'll be parking underneath the building, and also a surface lot over here, which can be accessed either from going through the building for the residents that are within the building, or for visitors and folks driving up Thayer Avenue, the surface lot can be accessed. This kind of gives you sort of a depiction of the way that the site lays out. If I flip over to this particular graphic here, it's sort of a larger blow up. So again, we've got 250 feet of frontage over here, about 200 feet of frontage here. As everyone knows, this area is in a floodplain. It's a coastal area, so the flooding source, according to the FEMA maps for this particular area, is the Pines River, at least down this end. That floodplain elevation is elevation 9. As everyone knows, and sometime later this year, FEMA is supposed to remap all the coastal areas in Essex and Suffolk counties, and that will likely be raising as a result of the latest information that they've collected. That said, this particular building is proposed to be up on stilts. If you give me that rendering. So this gives you an idea of how the building would lay out. So the first floor would be completely open at grade parking. So it's just going to be a surface lot at grade. The building will essentially be on columns. First floor elevation will probably be about 8 to 10 feet above that. And then there'll be 3 stories above that parking. By putting the building up on stilts like that, it actually adds a little bit of flood storage capacity to the subject property. Taking the small building footprint there that's out really just takes flood storage capacity away right now for any flooding that's experienced from the Pine River side. The whole site will be graded so that it flows, and you can leave this up, so it flows in this particular direction. Stormwater will not be discharged laterally either to the north or to the south. It will all be managed on-site in a subsurface system located underneath the middle of the parking lot with a discharge point out to the Pines River. Obviously, when flooding events happen from the Pine River side, as I'm sure they do on occasion even today, the site will be allowed to flood. like I said, even more so than it is today because you won't have the impediment of the existing building there. The building footprint itself is about 19,600 square feet. Again, it's 3 stories with at-grade parking located underneath the building. It's not underground parking, it's at-grade parking underneath the building. Utilities will be connected to their respective mains on Thayer Avenue. Dumpster area will be located in this area over here. Again, parking underneath the building and at grade. The required permitting, obviously, in addition to this special permit, there's a whole host of other permits that will be required that will all have public hearings associated with them. Obviously, the site plan review needs to be finalized. This will require the filing of a notice of intent as the entire portion of the project exists within the floodplain. It will also require a federal permit. It will require a National Pollution Discharge Elimination Systems construction general permit, and of course any work associated with the marina and on the water side would require Chapter 91 permitting through the DEP Waterways Department. So in terms of those specific permits, namely the order of conditions, because as you know, the Wetlands Protection Act has very strict stormwater management regulations now. They used to be a policy. Now it's actually regulations that are built into the Wetlands Protection Act, which we'll have to prove that we comply with all those in terms of the quality of stormwater that leaves the site in the post-development condition. So that's essentially sort of a brief overview. I think the only other bit of information that I would mention is I believe that the unit mix is 12 12 one-bedroom units with 30 two-bedroom units for a total unit count of 42 units.
Okay, any other proponents? That's proponents, people in favor.
Hello, Mr. President, City Council.
Name and address for the record, please.
Lou Peterson, 225 Mills Avenue. And I live right next to this building. And I've lived down here for a long time. I'm probably the oldest boat customer in the boatyard. So I know a lot about the flooding and what goes on down here. And I'd like to say that I don't care what they do in this property or how they grade it. It isn't going to change the height of the tide 1/fraction of an inch. And I love this drawing. I love this building. I'd love it to stay a boatyard. I love a working boatyard. But I know it's not going to stay a boatyard. The previous owners, Dave and William, were very cheap and frugal, and they couldn't keep it a boatyard. As hard as they tried, they couldn't keep that a boatyard. So I know something's going to go there eventually. So I love this building. I really hope it shows up down there. I think it's just what the neighborhood needs. And I'd also like to add, as far as the traffic goes, I know a lot of the neighbors are working about the traffic. But if you look at that photo with all the boats in that boatyard, there's 70 or 80 boats in that boatyard. Okay? So from about April till December, these people are coming down to work on their boats. And they keep their boats at the dock. And they traverse up and down through this neighborhood all year long. So I don't see this great influence of traffic that's going to happen with these 42 units. I think that, you know, the boatyard suffered over the last few years because he wants to develop it and he's struggling. So it's horrible looking right now. I mean, it's a mess. I think this is the right direction to go here. And I think that the flooding isn't going to be an issue or the traffic. So I hope you vote for this project. I'd love to see it. I live right next door to it. Thank you.
Thank you for your input. Name and address, please, for the record.
President, Mark DeSimone, 273 North Shore Road, corner of Gilbert Ave, members of the council. I'm here to speak as a proponent, obviously, of this project. I've been a resident there. I've owned my home for 20 years in that neighborhood. It's a great neighborhood. It's a nice, small place. We're literally crime-free in that neighborhood. It's one of the best neighborhoods in the city, I would say, at this point. I look at it from 3 different spectrums. A, as a resident, in the past 20 years, I've spent close to $250,000 in improvements in my home, not including the cost of my home, in improvements, additions and whatnot. I love it there. I'm not going anywhere. I know that a lot of the people in the neighborhood don't want anything to change, and I understand that. The problem is that no matter what, there is change. Things are going to change. Something is going to go there. I'm also a commercial lobsterman. I fish out of the marina down there. So again, would I like to keep it the way it is now? Of course I would, but it's not going to happen. Something there is going to go there. We have the opportunity now with a developer who has a proven track record. He's built Atlantis Marina in Winthrop. He's a man of his word. He wants to put money into mitigation to have something there that is aesthetically pleasing, that is not townhouses. I know a lot of people have been ill-informed, unfortunately, throughout other people in the neighborhood. They're worried about rentals. Most people have things in their hand right now that say that these are rental units that are going in. We all know that that's not what this application is for. It's for condominiums. As far as the flooding and the tides and all of that, I think it's the most stringent spot to build anything as far as obtaining permits from Army Corps of Engineers, DEP. You can't just pull up a few trucks down there and build whatever you want. It's far beyond the city council, and there are federal permits that need to be pulled as well. So to build something that's going to flood the whole neighborhood isn't going to happen. I mean, that's hearsay. As the past 10 years, I've patrolled the neighborhood as a police officer. Crime-wise, the best thing we could do down there is to put units that people own, not a couple of townhouses that someone owns and rents out both spots, 12 of those, like I've heard other people say to do, where they rent them to anybody. If someone goes in and buys a $300,000 or $50,000 condo, they can't rent it. It would be a losing proposition. The mortgage would be too much. These aren't rentals. I've seen some stuff from some of the neighbors that have talked about the tax revenue. They've stated that the boatyard now pays $13,000 in taxes, and if they did a rental building there, which, as we all know, that's not what this application is for, that the tax revenue would be around $9,000. Now, doing the math, going by my house, and what it's valued at, which, by the way, is valued at half market value of what it was 8 years ago, you're talking around $4,000 per unit in taxes, because they are owned units if they're built as condos, which they are going to be. I don't see any non-benefit for this for our neighborhood. It looks beautiful. It will enhance the park behind it. You can't even see the park right now. It's covered by a monstrosity, a building that probably should have been knocked down 20 years ago. And I'm involved down there with the marina and the boats and things like that. And we've pieced together everything we can to keep the property as nice as it can be now. But it's just, it can't remain that way. And the main thing that I would be concerned of is if they don't do this, what could be there? I've had neighbors tell me they can put nothing there.
Okay. I'm going to have to ask you to wrap it up. We got your
But
point.
I think
You're
that the
certainly a
neighbors need to be a
proponent,
little
and
bit
we
more,
appreciate your input. Thank you very much. Any other proponents? Name and address for the record, please.
I'm good at 17 Pearl Road. Good morning, Mr. President, members of council. I'm a commercial fisherman, currently fishing out of the marina there. I like it as a marina. The condition the marina is now is atrocious. I was well aware of his project that he did. I actually looked into units over there. It's too far from my fishing area for me to travel. It's an extra 10 miles, which is not worth it. But having a fishing boat in a working marina and have the option to buy an affordable condo and work right at my back door, 100% for it. I'll continue to fish out of there no matter what, but the place is a mess. To clean it up, to look at something nice, I bring my mother on my boat, I'm embarrassed. I'd like to have a nice place there, affordable housing, and be able to work out of marina and stay in the city of Revere. Thank you.
Thank you for your input. Any other proponents? Hearing and seeing none, I'll close that side of the hearing. Any opponents? Now, I'm sure there are going to be a few spokesmen, so let's have the few spokesmen that we're going to allow to speak here. And keep in mind, there's another meeting, of course. There's a zoning subcommittee meeting that will be probably next week, and that's when there will be more leeway for more people to be able to put their input into this project. So It's not like anybody's restricting anybody. I restrict the proponents, the opponents, and the councilors. The time for the big discussion is during the subcommittee meetings. That's when the problems get worked out, or that's when proposals go down the tubes, whatever happens, but that's where all the things are worked through. So just for everybody's edification, that's what we do here.
Mr. President,
Council Patch?
Yeah, if we could we have a raise of hands?
Yeah, we will. After we have the proponent spokesman come up, then we'll have a raise of hands of everybody in favor or opposed. Name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Elaine Hurley, 21 River Ave.
Good evening, Ms. Hurley.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
It's been a long time since I've stood here. I used to have a good friend who used to have my back. I hope she still has my back. I have a question. Who owns this property? Mr. Cipolletta?
You want to answer that, Councilor? Who owns the property?
Who owns the property?
This is Thayer Avenue Development, LLC.
29th Thayer Avenue?
29th Thayer Avenue Development, LLC. The deed is with, I believe it's with.
Okay. Madam Clerk, have you got that information? Okay.
According to the application, the owner is 29 Thayer Avenue Development, LLC.
Okay. Well, that's certainly what we have to go by.
Yeah, I have some other stuff for you to go by. Tonight you're telling me it's Joel DeLuca. I have papers that say it's Anthony DeLuca and Pamela Rebesquian as Thayer Avenue Development Company, LLC, not 29 Thayer Avenue. I've been a little bit loopy the past few days going over all the records that I pulled from the Registry of Deeds and so forth and so on. There's two. There's 29 Thayer Avenue, LLC. That is who bought the property originally. But back in 2012, the property was sold to Thayer Avenue Development Company, Inc., or LLC, for $700,000. They bought it from Dave for $1 million. I have all the papers here. You can look at them. I have it all written out for you guys so you can see.
I would ask you, I would ask you to supply those at the subcommittee meeting. However, all we can go by tonight is what's on the application.
Can we be legally doing this tonight?
Listen, we have an application in front of us that's 29 Thayer Avenue, LLC. That's who we're discussing tonight. If that happens to be somebody, if that's fraudulent, then all this is out the window. So for the sake of argument, that's who owns this property. That's who I think owns this property. That's who's proposed to the city. That's who the attorney just told us owns this property. That's what we're going by. You can submit that to the clerk, and we'll deal with that at another time.
Copies. I'll make you copies.
That's not for this. That's not for this purpose.
That's fine. I just want to know where it puts us as far as time waste if the owner is not.
Give us a brief overview of why you oppose this development, and we'll move on to the other couple of spokesmen for the opposition, and then we'll.
Well, I'd like to see the deed if you have the deed.
Yeah, well,
that's what I would like to see.
I'm sure that the attorney will probably supply that at the subcommittee meeting. That's not necessary here tonight.
Okay. All right. I have to mention that I was surprised the Site Plan Review Committee had nothing to say except a special permit needs to be obtained from the City Council. Now, this committee is made up of the building inspector, knowledgeable about building, the city engineer, knowledgeable about engineering, the superintendent of public works, knowledgeable about what's underground, etc., the city planner, knowledgeable of what's the path the city should take for the future. Now, all these people in a meeting with this developer, and they send to you, the council, they need a special permit. It makes me shake my head. Where's your guidance? Where's your guidance? You're not the engineers, you're not the building inspector, you're not so forth and so on.
I'll interrupt you once more.
Go ahead.
We have a very capable zoning chairman. We have very capable members of that zoning subcommittee, and we have very capable city councilors up here who are all going to scrutinize this project to the nth degree. So We
would
will
like to see you have a
certainly,
little
but we
input.
will certainly get information from all those qualified people, and I don't think it's necessary to have that here. This step is to go to the subcommittee for review. That's all this step is. The planning, site plan review told him he needs a special permit. He's here for a special permit. This is the process. So to get into who's qualified, why wasn't there further information about this? All that information will be completely transparent and out in the open, and I know all these guys and my chairman and the people on that committee are going to ask all these questions. So you can continue.
Thank you. Now, in a couple of things that are part of a special permit, the purpose of a PUD is to allow for greater density than what would be allowed by right. But then there is the word provided. Provided that the land usage can be shown to be in the public good, that it will improve the livability of the surrounding neighborhood and the environment. And I'm pretty sure the people here and at home do not find that this is to be true. We live there. It's our home, 24/7. Some young people, starting their families, bought here because it is a wonderful, safe place to raise children. Increasing a dead-end neighborhood made up of 125 single-family homes is not in the public good. We're talking 42 units on a block that now has 8 single-family homes. It's the same size as a block. That means 84 cars traveling back and forth the whole length of Mills Avenue. And the driveways to the building are smack dab in the middle of the street the kids use to get back and forth to the park. Mills Ave has a sidewalk only on one side. Most everyone walks on the side without the sidewalk. When baseball season starts, anyone will tell you they are scared to death to walk at the time the moms are driving the kids to the park. And that's just a few cars. You see, Mills Ave is a straightaway, and some people just like to speed. Those of us living there will tell you if there are cars, they will speed. And I'm surprised at Louis that he didn't say something about that, because he's always out there yelling at them for going too fast. All right, as an example, my house, which is at the end of Mills Ave in the winter, I'm lucky if 15 cars come by in the daytime, the whole day, night, day, night. So now, with this development, 84 or more are going to come by my house. Now, where is it written that a 2-bedroom won't have a child that drives? And what about the proposed marina? Oh, by the way, where are you planning to park those cars? Because you only have spaces for you only have 84 spaces. While on parking, how about when the occupants have guests? Where do they park? Then there is the environmental impact. I have given you pictures from the last storm. As you see, Mills Ave, River Ave, Thayer Ave, Hayes Ave are all impassable. The boatyard fills right up to Hayes Ave and the ballpark. How will people living there get home, and where will their cars be parked? Because when I go out at night, I have to see what time the high tide is, because if it's going to be when I'm coming home, I have to bring boots with me to get in my house, and that's no exaggeration. I think I was told the flooding wasn't going to be a problem because they're going to raise the land. Now, they can say they're going to raise it and make it go off to the sides. I don't care what they say. The raising of the land there is going to bring the water over to us. And it has gotten higher. In the pictures, you'll see a taxi flying through the water in those pictures that I gave you. And what happens when a car does that? So anybody that was going to try to get to their development down Mills Ave and does that, pushes the water into our homes even more. You're out there saying, no, don't do that, because the water just comes in faster. Now you're planning to put a marina, and the pictures show you that the floats, boats, and ice don't work well in the river.
To ask you to wrap this up.
I'm wrapping it up, Tony. I'm wrapping it up. You took some of my time, so I'm almost done.
I gave you 5 minutes.
I'm almost
I usually give people 3 minutes.
You
can
2 of
have
mine.
10 minutes at the zoning subcommittee, but
You took
you've
2 of
got
them.
30 seconds to wrap this up, please.
Being fair there, Tony. Okay. All right, so what happens if these little units that are going to be $350,000 don't sell as condominiums? Then what happens? Because PUD says you can put low-income housing in there. They actually promote that. I still don't understand is why developers have to go for the highest use in this case 42 units by special permit. When by right, no special permit, they can build, without a special permit, they can build beautiful houses, conducive with the area, and they might like where they live and they don't mind the flooding like the rest of us. It's been 28 years I've been fighting this boatyard. 28 years. My Jenna was an infant. We've tried to protect our neighborhood. We've done a pretty good job so far. We've sent quite a few.
I'm going to have to ask you to save the rest of this for the subcommittee meeting.
Oh, can I just ask you to please vote on this tonight? Because it
we
goes
are
into
not
subcommittee and it sits for 90 days and then
For
it's
your
passed.
edification, we are not allowed to vote on this tonight.
Why?
Our rules, our ordinances do not allow us to vote on a special permit the same night as the public hearing.
You're not going to let it go to 90 days.
It has to go to subcommittee.
Right?
It
We'll
has to go
call
to-
every week. Make sure you're not doing that.
Thank you. I'm sure you will, Elaine.
Thank you, Tony.
Okay, another spokesman. Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Linda Rosa. I live at 34 Harrington Ave.
Welcome, former Councilor Rosa.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's been a long time since I've been on this side also. But what I'd like to say tonight is that I've been in my home for over 30 years. Brought up my son in this area. It's a beautiful area. It's probably one of the few areas that is still zoned one-family residential in the city. Not only is it zoned one family, we pay for that. We pay dearly in our taxes. It's probably the highest assessed property in the city. We don't mind paying that. This is a great little development, but not on 50,000 square feet in a one-family zoned area that has already been impacted between Cary Circle, North Shore Road. We have no fire station. That's probably the biggest impact in the area. In other words, Mr. Chairman, I would just like to go on record. I would just like to go on record tonight and state that I would oppose this particular development as I would any other development, whether it be a duplex or not. And I know by matter of right that this zoning has been there for a long time. Maybe it's time that some of you should take a look at this and possibly change so that it would fit in with, I know that people have owned this property and they're looking at me wanting to lynch me, but the bottom line is we have a lot of people who live there and they have to put up with the flooding. Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, I'm sorry, I'd like to go on record as opposed. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else? Okay, you're the last one. Name and address for the record, please.
Yes, good evening. My name is Ricky LaCentra. I live at 30 John Avenue. I've been there for 60 years, 4 generations in the Riverside. Grandparents, my parents, us, and now my kids. And I am strongly opposed to this development. I emailed all the councilors on the 25th with reasons why we're against this. Including density, existing water and sewer inadequacies that we already have, that adding 42 more units, flooding, exacerbating more flooding, major traffic increases, and so I won't, bother you with that. What I wanted also to do, though, is to give you a couple of pictures that I took, and I apologize for not getting 10 pictures. This is of Mills Ave facing the boatyard. One was taken 2 days ago, high and dry land, and one was taken when the river overflowed on January 3rd.
I'm one counselor that never got your email, so
Oh, I apologize. It was sent to you where we got it off the Revere website.
All right.
And the only counselor that didn't have one was Counselor Penta, didn't have a
Okay,
email
for some
address.
reason I didn't get it. That's okay.
Okay, I apologize for that. Okay, I could make copies of this.
That's
and send
okay.
it
Anything
again.
else to
Okay.
add?
As I said, no. As I say, we're strongly opposed to this. It would be a detriment to the neighborhood.
I encourage you to come to the subcommittee meeting, and our chairman will announce that, I'm sure, shortly.
I absolutely will be there.
Great. Thank you very much for your input. Okay. At this point, I'm going to close that side of the hearing. Yeah, I apologize. Give me a show of hands of all people opposed, please. 1, 2, 3. Somebody make an account here? 156 opposed. Okay, now, in the interest of fairness, people in favor. Substantial amount, actually. 12. Okay. Thank you. Okay, now we'll officially close all sides of the hearing. The hearing is closed. Now, councilors, Councilor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, at the outset, just let me say, because I'm going to lead up to something here. We had a meeting down at the wharf. Unbeknown to me, I found out about it about a day before the meeting through the graciousness of Ms. Hurley and Doreen Weinberg. And there was a tremendous amount of people down there, very large group. And they expressed their concerns. They were against it. Now, prior to that meeting, I had been asked by the attorney to have a meeting. I said, you have it on a Sunday afternoon when there's no major sports teams playing. Make sure, give me the postage. I'll get the letters out to everybody in the area that I think should be concerned. You know something? That never happened. They went ahead with the meeting. Shortly after that, about a week later, I got a call that there were probably 25 dump loads of fill being dumped on the property down there. I went down with Andy DeSantis, and we both confirmed the fact that this was so. Andy DeSantis called Attorney Cipolletta, informed him he would like the fill removed. Fine. 2 or 3 days later, they started spreading the fill around down there, raising the grade of the land. Now, that tells me something. That tells me that people are just doing whatever they think they can do down there. I've been down there. I've been going down there since my uncle lived on Gilbert Avenue. I know what happens down there. I've seen the flooding. I was down there this weekend. There was a broken fire hydrant down there. It was leaking. There was ice all over the place, and we were fortunate enough to have the city come down and sand it. Along with Councilor Rizzo, when he was chairman of zoning, we changed the zoning down there, and we removed the word special permit from the RA district, which is Riverside, the Pointer Pines, and the Grove section of Oak Island. There's no such thing as a special permit anymore. The only problem is this was zoned light industrial. 84 parking spaces. That tells me something. When this plan came to me earlier, it made no mention of the number of units or the size of the units. It said 42 small to medium-sized condominiums. Well, that tells me you can do whatever you want. You can put 42 two-bedrooms. You can put 10 one-bedrooms. Now they're telling us 30 two-bedroom units. You know, we have the superintendent of schools comes up here every 3 or 4 months asking us to build more schools, telling us 300 kids this year, 200 kids next year, 300 kids the next year. Why are we looking to bring more families with children into this city? We should be looking for commercial development. That's where the money is. That's where the taxes are to help support this city. I want to say unequivocally tonight, I am 100% against this proposal. Attorney Cipolletta, Mr. Developer, you come back to this group at a meeting with something that works for the neighborhood, and we'll look at it then. But for now, I'm 100% against it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Council Powers. We all know this is going to zoning subcommittee. Everybody want to wait till then to, good. Zoning subcommittee.
Calendar item number 5, hearing called is ordered on the application of Jack Darien and Harry Darien, Bikers Outfitter, 1039 Broadway, Revere, Mass., requesting permission from the Revere City Council to expand a pre-existing...
We're going to take a brief recess, Madam Clerk. Just a 2-minute recess. Okay, the council's back in order. Madam Clerk.
Calendar item number 5, hearing called is ordered on the application of Bikers Outfitter, 1039 Broadway, requesting permission from the Revere City Council to expand a pre-existing non-conforming use for the purpose of a Class 2 license for the sale of used motorcycles at the Bikers Outfitter. This is within the GB district at 1039 Broadway.
Proponents, name and address, please. Ash, can you...
385 Broadway, Revere. On behalf of the applicants, Jack and Harry Darien. These gentlemen have been operating the Bikers Outfitters since at least August of 2000. For the 30 years preceding that, it was always used for the sale and service of new and used motorcycles. And when the Dariens bought the property, they bought the land, the building, and the business. And they ostensibly bought the license. And somewhere in the chain of license, one of the licenses may have lapsed, although the use was not abandoned. And we're not here looking for a license to do anything. I know that we do need to go to the Revere License Commission and take that up with them. But nonetheless, the Dariens have been selling new motorcycles, have been selling used motorcycles, have been fixing the motorcycles in the small engines, and selling the accessories for these bikes. And what they want to do is now to, although they've been selling new bikes with a license, they want to expand and sell the trade-ins, the used bikes, or somebody who puts a bike in for consignment. Now, that had been happening for 30 years prior to the Dariens actually buying the property and the business. And we contend, and we'll have to take this up with the License Commission, that this was not an abandonment of the use. When we explained this at the Site Plan Review Committee, it was determined that what we're asking for is an expansion of the pre-existing non-conforming use. The non-conforming use is the sale of the new bikes. The expansion is to revert to and include sale of used bikes, and perhaps down the road, rental of bikes. So those are all licensing issues, but before we get to there, we need to be on the appropriate zoning footing so that we can petition the License Commission for that. Certainly, we've had a certificate of occupancy, the owners have, since April 6, 2001, for motorcycle sales, service, and small engine repair. They've had a Class 1 license down there, existed since 1993. The assessor's records show that since 1929, it was for sale and service of vehicles, and I assume motorcycles as well. He has all of the appropriate Chapter 148 fire department licenses, and simply what he is asking is a special permit to allow him to petition the Revere License Commission to continue the business and to expand his inventory of what he offers to the general public. And it is on that, if you're familiar with where it is, it's as you take the right, if you're heading north, you take the right to go up the Lynn Marsh Road. It's about the third building in. And I think the building before that's a gas station, and then a body shop, or maybe a body shop and a gas station. So it's in an area which is conducive to that kind of activity. I would ask the City Council to vote favorably upon this so that we may then petition and work out the licensing issues with the Revere License Commission, who I believe already has this on the radar. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any other proponents? People in favor of this change? Hearing and seeing none? What's it? Oh, I apologize. Why don't you read it? We have a letter from a constituent that wants to be read into the record.
This email is from a Mr. Dennis Michella. I would like to speak in favor of Bikers Outfitter application for a Class II license to sell motorcycles. I worked part-time at that dealership selling Yamaha motorcycles in 1989, and prior to that, I bought a new motorcycle there in 1971. As the Revere Police Community Resource Coordinator, I believe that Bikers Outfitters has been a good neighbor and an asset to the business community of Revere. As a small business owner, he's been proactive in promoting the city of Revere, and as far as I know, there have not been any complaints about this business.
Okay, now, any other proponents? Hearing and seeing none, we'll close that side of the hearing. Any opponents, people opposed to this use? Hearing and seeing none, we'll close that side of the hearing. Councilor Guanasso.
Thank you, Mr. President. I know the area well. It's in Ward 3. And to the attorney, I'm not so certain that under Chapter 140 in Massachusetts General Laws, that if you have a Class 1 license, that gives you the ability to buy and sell used cars also. Have you reviewed that?
Used cars?
Yeah. I think if you have a Class 1 license.
Yes.
I'm talking from the days when I was a license commissioner for 6 years. And I recall very strongly, if you had a Class 1, it gave you the ability to buy and sell used cars also. You don't have to have a Class 2 because you have a Class 1, which is the cream of the crop, which is the no, if you have that,
indeed.
that's true. I think it's moot that you need the Class 2.
Well, there's one little glitch, and I'm probably going to throw another glitch into it, and not intentionally, but the Class 1 will allow you to sell a vehicle or a motorcycle that's traded in for a new one. But if I wanted to get rid of my bike, and I wanted to put it out or sell it to a dealer or put it out for consignment, we're told that now that's a used car, a used vehicle, you need to sell it. You need a Class 2 to sell it. Now, I know it didn't make any sense to me
Don't make very
either,
much sense to me.
But I know, but when I looked at the statute, it allowed you to take in, if you have a 1 selling new cars, new motorcycles, you could take in a trade toward the new. But you couldn't go down to the auction or take mine on consignment or buy from someone else and sell it. That's what I'm told.
So you're going to fall what I would term a very gray area, based on the fact that we have a limitation on, we have a restriction on us and on any issuance of selling of cars. In my opinion, this is a non-conforming use. That's really doesn't. In my opinion, and I'm not a lawyer or a judge, but I would suggest that this is a really relatively moot question, and we should get some clarity from our city solicitor whether we even have to go the extra yardage. I think you have every right in the world to do what you're trying to do, with the exception of having the paperwork, Class 2 license.
I think that's correct. And what happened in the chain of the licensing is, although they had the Class 1 to sell the new motorcycles for all of that time, that license, it didn't lapse, they just didn't renew it, but they kept performing the use.
Yeah.
And basically, they didn't pay the fee, I guess,
Yeah.
for the number of times.
I don't even know that there's. I don't even know of any business in the city that has a 1 and a 2. You mean to tell me now when Abel Ford was here, they had a Class 1 and a Class 2?
Yeah,
now, certainly, they're conducting the type of business that you're trying to do. They got cars, and obviously they went to the auction and sold them. All their cars that they sold weren't turn-ins. I don't get it. I think it's a very, very gray area, and I'm not certain that
That
you're
was an
gonna...
argument, I agree with you, but it was an argument I lost.
Well, maybe we were very lax in those days when I was on the License Commission, because it went, you know, and there was no restriction, and there wasn't anybody who opposed it. I
Right.
mean, it doesn't make sense that the gentleman selling class one, he's selling new. What's the difference between sell used? I mean, really, it's the product, the same thing. But if you need it, you need it.
I think we need the zoning to keep to expand the non-conforming use. The non-conforming use is selling new bikes. That's where again, I don't generally walk away thinking I lost that argument when I come out of the site plan review and out of City Hall, because we generally know what we're entitled to do.
See, if you requesting a lifting of the moratorium,
no,
then that's a whole different ball game that's going to require.
I think at this point, I'm going to interrupt this.
We're going to go to...
We're going to go to subcommittee and let the zoning issue go to subcommittee, but we will ask for a solicitor's opinion anyway. And, but again, the zoning is something you're applying for. We can't deal with the license, period. But we might as well get an opinion from the city solicitor on the license and move this forward on the zoning issue. Is there anybody else on the council that wants to speak on this? Okay, zoning subcommittee.
Calendar item number 6, hearing called is ordered on the application of Victoria Vineker, Revere Adult Daycare Health Center, 765 Revere Beach Parkway, Revere, Mass., seeking permission from the Revere City Council to modify a non-conforming structure for the purpose of expanding the operation of an existing adult daycare facility at 765 Revere Beach Parkway.
Mr. President, good evening again. James Cipolletta, 385 Broadway, Revere, for the record.
Counselor, you are making a ton of money here tonight. Just kidding, everybody. Continue. Little levity here. Come on, let's laugh a little bit, will we? Come on. I started.
The bank is my landlord.
I started this. I apologize.
You'll remember Vicki, who was before you in 2010, and she was one of the first Revere, first adult day healthcare center operators. And she got that building, and she rented half of it at 765 Revere Beach Parkway. And her business is thriving. There was a need for it. She identified it. There were, I think, a number of the councilors wanted to see the actual operation and the facilities before you gave her the special permit in 2010. I am mindful that I've been up here since 2010 with some of these issues revolving around parking on, was it Mills Avenue, Mill Street behind, and so forth. And I think, squared away most of those so that when they popped up, it was only intermittently. This may be actually a solution and may operate to mitigate rather than exacerbate a problem. Because Vicki, and she apologizes for not being here, she had a baby at the end of last week and she's down in Maryland, so she's leaving me to do this on my own. And they have committed to renting the entire building, which also means that they have the absolute right to all of the parking spaces on that parking lot, whereas prior to this application and until now, they don't. And you can tell, if you remember driving by the building, most of the parking, as you face the building from Revere Beach Parkway, is on the left. And that's the part that she didn't lease. Excuse me. The additional square footage is 2,500 square feet, plus all of the attendant parking that goes along with that. Why do they need it? Well, because the need in the community has increased, or that there is a better awareness of the availability of the service now that people talk to each other and they know that there's a place like this. And there are several, there's some in Melrose and Wakefield and surrounding communities that do very well, and they fill a very important niche in this area. Are they looking really to take in more clients? Not really. What the architect and the engineering firm, if I may pass this up from the, and this is what I'm going to be citing. Some of it's in the application, but that is the breakdown from the professional staff. The state requires or dictates or mandates how many clients you can have based on the number of square feet. So whereas she now has 6,600 square feet, she's allowed to have 151 clients. By the addition of this 2,500 additional square feet, she's only picking up 17 more clients. So at first blush, it looked like, oh my goodness, she's going to double or increase by 35 or 40% the people who are coming there, and that's just not true. Well, how does she manage that? What she's going to do, and it's in that letter that I'd asked to be made a...
We'll make this available to the zoning subcommittee, and anybody who wants to see it, welcome.
So what they're going to do is they're going to take out a couple of the small activity rooms that they have there, and they're going to use that as open central general space for central activities and dining area. More and more of these people are eating there at the prescribed time. More and more of these people are given medication and congregate in this sort of central area where they can eat, and then they can turn around and play cards and wait for the nurse to call and give them their medication. So that's essentially what they're doing. Everything else is going to stay the same, but for the fact that we're picking up a good number of parking spaces on the left-hand side. I do understand and I do believe that there was a condition that the council had imposed, and I think it was Councilor Clinton and the current council president who was very vociferous in getting us to commit to no employee parking in the residential area. That may be a condition, I think, of the second modified special permit. And
before I let you go on, I just want to say that Councilor Penta is ill tonight, and I know that he's very interested in this. And we're gonna have some lengthy discussions at the zoning subcommittee when we reach that point. But there will be restrictions that are real this time, that work this time, and we don't want that nightmare that we had. And there were a lot of things left on the table, unfortunately. They will not, because we were thrilled with the use, and we didn't know what the consequences to the neighbors were going to be. And so anyways, we're going to work all that out. I apologize for interrupting, and we're going to get back to your proposal. Go ahead.
I'm done.
You're done. Okay. Any other proponents? Hearing and seeing none, we'll close that side of the hearing. Any opponents? Concerns are fine. Step to the podium, name and address for the record.
Okay, I'm Maria Kostopoulos. I live at 111 Mill Street. My house abuts 760.
I know that very well, Marie.
Okay. Now, on June 17, 2010, they sent out this letter. In the letter it said, "It is important to note that the days and times of operation of the center would be Monday through Friday, approximately 8:30 to 4:30 p.m. It's open 7 days a week. Okay, it's there Saturday, it's there Sunday. I was just backed into on a Sunday by a man delivering food. He was in a regular van. My concerns are the garbage, and I spoke to Mr. Levitakis, the owner. He's a wonderful man, wonderful landlord, but the thing is, he told me they got a bigger dumpster. Okay, so that should hold everything. Now, my other concern is at night, especially on a Sunday evening, you hear boom, boom, boom. The cleaning people are in there blasting their music. I went out last night in my pajamas, not feeling well, and I looked over, and it was the cleaning people. I even got their plate number, and the traffic, and the parking. The parking is horrendous. I do have pictures on my phone. that,
I've seen a lot of them, and you've sent me some of them. Let me just say that we're going to be able to address a lot of the problems that we couldn't address because we gave kind of a carte blanche on the first permit. This will correct all that, and I think this could end up being a good thing, provided we do it right, and we intend to do it right. So I know your concerns very well, and you have my cell phone, and you call me all the time, and we've discussed this, and I feel your pain. I know what you've been through. And I know Councilor Penter feels your pain, and he wants to get this right this time also. And so,
may I ask,
go right
is
ahead.
this a state-run facility?
It is a state-assisted facility as far as a licensed facility. Yeah.
State license?
Yeah, they don't run it. They give permission to do it.
Okay. And why is it only that I am not impartial, but why is it only that Hispanic people can go there?
I can't answer that. We asked that question, and they told us that was not true.
I have a neighbor that, oh yes.
Okay, well, we're gonna get to all of this stuff, and I want you to come to the zoning subcommittee when we have it, which will be shortly, and bring up all these concerns, and these can be put in as conditions. All your issues, I think, will be responded to.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Marie. Name and address for the record, please.
Carol, 111 Taft Street. My house abuts the back of the building, and I have a few things. This is privately owned, isn't it?
It is privately owned, yes.
That's one thing I want to know. Okay. I'm opposed to them being there 7 days a week. They're supposed to be 5
So am
days
I.
a week. Okay.
So am I.
Now, they have a dumpster there. You want lids on our barrels. You should see their dumpster.
Really?
2 or 3 days before they pick up, they either need a larger dumpster or pick up more than once a week.
This is something we can address absolutely in the zoning subcommittee as part of one of the conditions, and the Board of Health will be informed that this is a problem. This is one issue
Well, I
the
see the
dumpster issue.
dumpster every day. They bring food in like you wouldn't believe.
Well, the dumpster issue I didn't hear about, so
Well, you
we
do
would
now.
have had the Board of Health out there a long time ago if we heard that one. The parking issue was a little more difficult, but
Parking, that's another thing. They're double parking on the sidewalk,
Yeah.
on the parkway.
they won't be doing
If
that in the
somebody
future.
ever ran into one of those cars, forget it.
Won't be in the future.
I hope so.
Okay, thank you for your input. Any other opponents or people with concerns? That's a new title we're giving this, people with concerns. Okay, good. All right, we'll close that side of the hearing. Since Councilor Penter's not here, I'm going to start with Councilor Novoselsky.
Mr. President, just through you to the attorney, how many, with the new number of people in the expansion, how many employees are we talking?
I don't know. That was one item of information I didn't get from Vicki. We weren't sure when she was going to deliver, whether she'd be able to make it or not. But I'll have that for the subcommittee. I will call her cell phone in the morning, and I'll get that to the clerk, and it would be to you before we get to the zoning subcommittee. I'm assuming there's going to be an adjustment. I just don't know the number. Sorry.
Thank you. Councilor Guanasso.
Mr. President, it's a point I try to make is that, Councilor, I would like to have the owner present because my major concern a few years ago was when I had a dear friend go to that facility and he was refused entrance because he didn't speak Spanish. And that individual has since died. Never getting the adult care that he needed in Revere. He had to go elsewhere because this individual, and they still only cater to Spanish-speaking people. I don't care what anybody says. And that is unfair. Because if it was vice versa, and we said you have to speak English, and we don't take care of Spanish people, there'd be a problem. So why isn't there a problem now? It's very, very annoying to me. And I want that individual to be with you when you appear before the zoning subcommittee, because I'm part of that committee.
Oh, absolutely. I
think that's
remember
a
getting
major,
that.
major and I appreciate the garbage, I appreciate the traffic, but this is absolutely mind-boggling. How we can just turn our heads as a city, as a governmental body, and allow this to take place. It's not fair, it's not right, and it's not just.
I remember getting I'm sorry, Mr. President, through you. I got a call on my cell phone from you, Councilor Guanasso, from Councilor Penta, from Councilor Novoselsky, and two of them from the President about that. And I believe that we may have, did you bring the owner up here? And I might point out, the owner is Eastern European. The owner is not Hispanic.
If I can bring this, they assured us, we went there.
Don't matter what she is, I know what she said.
Except that when Council Guanasso tried to get somebody that spoke English in there, he couldn't get them in there. So they're saying one thing and doing another.
That's
now,
a matter
whether or
of
not
fact.
we can make that a condition of the special permit, we will if we can.
And the other insulting part of this is that the state subsidizes this place, and we are all taxpayers who pay our taxes through the state. And we're paying for this wrongful action to take place in our community. And yet, everybody's turning their head. Well, guess what? Now's our opportunity. I'm not turning my head. If I find out that to be true, I'm going to ask that the license be revoked. I feel that strongly about it. Thank you.
I have professional feelings about it, and I have personal feelings.
I
think you know what my personal feelings are.
It has nothing to do with personal. In my opinion, I'm a representative of the people that
Well, I
that vote
understand
for.
that, but I'm advocating for my client on a zoning issue, and I didn't disagree then, and I wholeheartedly agree now if it's going on. It's not appropriate, it shouldn't happen, it's not going to happen. If it does, you won't see me standing here representing.
You just heard a resident who happens to be a neighbor say, is it just catering to Spanish speaking only?
Yeah,
Now,
that's
so
not right.
she must have some sort of insight that that's true.
Yeah, I think the owner is probably the person to answer that and find out where what client stream they get their referrals from.
Well, all I simply would ask is a attendance sheet of who is attending. Give me the attendees of this for the past 3 weeks, not months, 3 weeks. Let me know. Let me have a review of that. I'll make a determination whether they're telling the truth.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Anybody else? Well, the zoning committee is going to be very busy. Zoning.
Calendar item number 7, hearing called is ordered on petition of National Grid to install 140 feet of underground conduit on Ridge Road.
Name and address for the record.
Yes, my name's Mike Cordima. I work at National Grid Electric, 170 Medford Street, Malden. The petition is to install this conduit in order to provide power to our customer at 305 Ridge Road in Revere.
Any other proponents? Any other proponents? Hearing and seeing them, we'll close that side of the hearing. Any opponents? Anybody opposed? Hearing and seeing them, we'll close that side of the hearing. Any councilors? Councilor Reardon.
I just have one question. Is this an existing building, or is it a vacant lot?
It's a vacant lot, Councilor, that when the development was originally put in, this lot was left undeveloped. Now its owner wants to develop it.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other councilors? Hearing, seeing none, what's the will of the council? Motion to approve. All in favor, all opposed? Or do we need a roll call here? So voted. Again, I apologize for hitting this thing so hard. I haven't got my swing down yet.
Calendar item number 8, communication from the mayor requesting a residency waiver for Michael Kessman, Community Development Project Engineer.
What's the will of the council here? Appointment subcommittee.
Calendar item number 9, communication from the mayor relative to the reappointment of J. Marchese and Sons, Inc. as a licensed drain layer.
Appointments.
Calendar item number 10, communication from the election commissioner relative to the submission of the warrant calling for the special local election on Tuesday, February 25th, 2014.
Do I hear a motion? We need a roll call on this. All in favor, all opposed, so voted.
Calendar item number 11, communication from the mayor relative to ETP funding requests.
Ways and Means.
Calendar item number 12, communication from the mayor relative to reappointments to various boards and commissions.
Appointment Subcommittee.
Calendar item number 13, communication from the mayor requesting a residency waiver for Lauren Shuzga for a part-time position at the library.
Appointments.
Calendar item number 14, communication from the mayor relative to the appointment of Nicholas Maglione as a constable.
Appointments.
Calendar item number 15, motion presented by Councilor Novoselsky, that the mayor send a letter to the MBTA and MassDOT regarding the extension of Blue Line service to 3 a.m. The MBTA is planning to extend Blue Line service past the normal 12:45 a.m. stop time. This will cause a tremendous disservice to the residents living between Beachmont Station and Wonderland Station. In an effort to reduce the noise and vibration factor, we request that the MBTA have all trains slow down on this stretch of the Blue Line during this new time period.
Councilor Novoselsky.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, over the years, we've had the Carabetta properties build on Ocean Avenue. And I know people come in and they start living there and they hear the trains going by. Well, the trains were there first before the building, unfortunately. But here's a case now where they were stopping at 12:45 and people were kind of living with it, they got used to it. But now they're extending it till 3 a.m. And I think by the amount of noise that travels at night, more so it exacerbates the noise level at night. The decibel level at night is a lot higher than during the day. And I think it should be appropriate that the MBTA take this into consideration and that we also send a copy of this to Secretary Davey of Mass DOT, if you would please, and also our legislative delegation at the State House. And, I think, we ought to look out for our people that live there now, and they shouldn't have to live with any more noise beyond the 12:45 they've been living with over the many years that things have been going on down there. And may I say, it's not only between Revere Beach Station and Wonderland. We're also talking between Revere Beach and Wonderland Station. We have a lot of single-family homes behind the Garfield School. So hopefully the council will agree with me on this and move this on and see if we can solve this problem. Thank you.
Anybody else on the motion? On the motion, all in favor, all opposed? So voted.
Calendar item number 16, motion presented by Councilor Novoselsky, that the mayor request the city planner to investigate the feasibility of installing a raised crosswalk at the public stairs in the vicinity of 81 Campbell Avenue. This area is a speedway and is a public safety hazard to children crossing to go to the Garfield School and to residents in the area.
Councilor Novoselsky.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, we have a situation, and I know Councilor Morabito lives in that neighborhood, and he knows what's going on, that ever since we've paved the road there, it's a nice roadway, people seem to pick up their speeds. It's a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit, and we had the radar machine down there, and people were averaging 40 miles an hour. And I feel, and it came from one of the suggestions of one of the neighbors, that we look at the raised crosswalks, which they bring them up the height of the curbing on either side of the street. So it's a straight run for most people to walk across, but vehicles have to slow down to go over them. It's similar to a speed bump, but it's not a speed bump per se. These are allowed. I've seen them in many cities and towns around the Commonwealth, and I think this is something we should try and look into. And I know there's water issues and drainage issues around it, but I think we can work on it, and hopefully when we get the casinos, we'll have the extra money to do a lot of these and solve a lot of problems for speeding and flooding. So thank you for the time.
Thank you, Councilor Novoselsky. Councilor Morabito.
Yeah, I think this was a great motion put forward by Councilor Novoselsky, and we should move forward with it.
Thank you. Anybody else? Councilor Janino.
Thank you. I also agree with Councilor Novoselsky. This is a great motion, and I've seen it in several other communities. One that stands out is Malden. I know they have a lot in front of some of the apartment complexes, and it really would be useful in not just this, but a lot of our school zones. And I think it makes sense because it really offers no disruption to the neighborhood because it's a straight walk across the street, but it really requires cars to slow down because if you hit that too quick, you're going to do some serious damage, and it would definitely help the neighborhood because it's big. It's not just a speed bump. They're as wide as a crosswalk, so it could definitely be something in terms of public safety that would be very, very helpful. So thank you for putting that in, Councilor.
Thank you.
Mr. President, just one
Councilor
more
Novoselsky.
addition, if I may.
Go right ahead.
Something that came up in the past that we've, when I spoke to a traffic commission on this, was the DPW and plowing. And, they were saying that it's going to rip it up and all this kind of stuff. But I think if, we have enough trucks and the size of the trucks can go slow enough and still make it over over that 6 to 8 foot area and still be able to push the snow on the side. So, I think it's something we ought to look at very closely. Thank you.
Well, what do they do in other communities? I mean, somebody's plowing in other communities.
They go very slowly.
Okay. On the motion, all in favor, all opposed, so voted.
Calendar item number 17, motion presented by Councilor Gino that the mayor requests Boston Globe Direct to address the poor and unacceptable delivery practices of the vendors used to deliver the Boston Globe Direct advertisements. Much like litter, the advertisements are blatantly thrown in the street, blocking storm drains, as well as in homeowners' landscaping, driveways, sidewalks, or condominium common areas. Several residents have also reported attempting to cancel the unwarranted free subscription via either phone or email, but were unable to do so.
Councilor Janino.
Thank you. This is an issue that I've heard a lot about in all different parts of our city, and I think it's something that's really bothering the residents. And when you drive around, especially during the snowstorms that just passed, you see them in snow mounds, you see them in the drains, you see them in people's bushes, on the stairs, sometimes piled up on people's crosswalks. And it's crazy. It's just something that's completely bizarre to me because we spend so much time talking about beautification and making our community look more presentable. And you have this third party delivering these for the Globe that just makes a complete mess. And, we're still a community where people take great pride in their properties and their landscapings. We're still a community where people go out and sweep their driveways. So we should have some respect for the people that are taking all this time to care for their property and having litter thrown on their lawns. And another concern that I've heard from the Broad Sound Ave area is it's going into the drains, and those drains go right out to the ocean. So that's a severe environmental concern that people are concerned about. And more surprisingly is they're trying to cancel it, and there's no way to do so. So I think that some accountability on behalf of this company needs to happen, and we need to get to the bottom of this because it's completely unacceptable. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Janino. Councilor Guanasso.
I think this is a great motion, Councilor, offered by Councilor Janino. And certainly I have many residents asking the same question. Please, how do we get to stop this delivery? And I had one individual come to me and say to me, he tried to, and they still won't listen. And everything she stated in this particular motion is correct. Everything that's damaging to our community is happening by this delivery. So I don't know if anybody really appreciates getting them. If you get the Boston Globe, you get them anyway. So it'd be a great motion, Councilor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Guanasso. Councilor Novoselsky.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I spoke to Councilor Janino on this earlier, and I'm glad she brought it up. I went through this the last year or the year before, and I actually called the company, and I told them that if they don't clean up their act, basically at that point, I would ask the city council ban these items from the city. And the guy, I spoke to was in Lynn, out of a distribution company in Lynn. And, he told me he would, cease and desist all the unnatural things that people do, is just throw them around. And it was good for a while. And I can honestly say he did tell his people to stop doing it. Now, I get the Globe at my house. Yeah, but I only go in one house. One apartment gets it, but they deliver 4 packages of this sales pitch. And this is not a First Amendment issue because all they're doing is selling items. So I don't believe we have to worry about, saying if we ban them, that we're breaking the First Amendment. I don't believe we are. And they're sales pitches. They're all advertisements. you know, and they're trying to get people to go to different stores around the city and outside the city. But if it's going to mean messing up our city and having these things freeze on the streets in the wintertime, which is what's happening, and you see these orange plastics and the green plastics and the red plastics, totally unacceptable. And I congratulate the council for putting this in. And if it means us banning these from the city, I'll go forward and we'll push that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Reardon.
Thank you, Mr. President. I concur with everything that's been said so far. It's amazing to me that the people who deliver the Globe can get the Globe right to the front of my door, and the people who deliver these things can't seem to hit the driveway. It seems to me that it's just a matter of training the people to deliver one set per address and make sure it gets to the door or in front of the doorway or in the vicinity anyway. I can't understand how they end up on the sidewalk, in the driveways, and as everybody sees in the gutter. It's strictly a matter of training. They have to train the people to deliver the stuff properly, and I don't think there'd be a problem. But certainly taking them to task for it makes sense, so I'm in favor of this motion.
Excuse me. Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's ironic that I had this motion going in for next week, and I'm glad that my colleague submitted it. I would like to ban them, if we can, from the city in its entirety. They're all over the place. They're on my driveway, they're in the street, and you know, you've got a group of people out here, starting with the beautification committee. They're working their butts off to improve the quality of life in our community. And all of a sudden you have this disregard, just flip it to the left, flip it to the right. You know, it's crazy. I would like to ban it, really. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Haas. Councilor Patch.
Thank you, Mr. President. I believe I think it's a great motion by Councilor Janino. Councilor Reardon's lucky. My Globe doesn't always make it to the front door, or my Herald. But I have, in the past couple of weeks, along Johnny Road and Asti and Sicilian, pick up at least 10 of these items that were left out in the middle of the street. And, you know, it's really, it's got to get taken care of. It really is a mess. And I just said, I think it's a great motion. It's overdue. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think it's an excellent motion. I want to commend Councilor Janino. But I think there's an issue here that no one has brought up, and I want to bring it up right now. When most people go away for a couple of weeks or a month, they have their mail sent to another address, general delivery or post office boxes. They have their newspaper stopped. And I think one of the central issues here is when someone that's looking to break into a home walks down the street and sees 8 or 9 of these laying on someone's doorstep, maybe it sends them a message, well, you know, let me watch this house a little closely because these people aren't home. Maybe this is a place I should break into. So I think personally, I think it should be stopped. If people want to send out advertisements, send them through the U.S. mail. We do. Everybody else should.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Arrigo.
Thank you, Mr. President. I figured why not chime in since everyone else has. I do want to commend Councilor Janino on the motion. I think it's a great motion. I would also support banning them. I know recently I moved to Tony, West Revere, and I've had I've had 3 or 4 of these pop up randomly on my front lawn. I know I've had to pick them up, so it's a pain in the neck, and I commend Councilor Janino. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Arrigo. I also want to commend Councilor Janino, but I also want to give her the award for getting every councilor to speak on this motion, because it's the first time tonight that we generated so much interest. I did receive a couple of calls. I got one today from Mr. Scanlon telling me that he supported your motion and was was thrilled when you were putting it in. I think that this was a money deal. You see, they used to come by mail, and I never had a problem. They were in my mailbox, and they paid for U.S. postage. They must be saving a ton of money, but now they're on the lawn, they're on the driveway, they're under the tenants' cars, they're everywhere. And it's all about money. So I think that if they want to send out these advertisements, and I don't mind getting the flyers for the supermarkets. I like to see what's on sale, but I'd rather have it in my mailbox than in the middle of my lawn. So I think, again, it's a great motion, and I'm sure we'll all support it. So,
Mr. President, just one point, if I may.
Councilor Novoselsky.
I would like all the councilors, if we give this about a month to happen and see what happens and whether or not they listen to the mayor. If we come back in about a month on this and keep this in your mind, that we come back in a month and then, number one, beside banning it, bring those people up in front of us. Let's get them and put it to them right to their faces. So I'm not pushing that right now, but I think in about a month.
Okay. On the motion, all in favor, all opposed? So voted.
Calendar item number 18, motion presented by Councilor Reardon, that the mayor investigate the feasibility of installing a video surveillance camera at the city reservoir. In addition to the fact that graffiti vandalism has recently occurred at the site, there is a potential for a threat to public safety in that the reservoir is integrated with our freshwater delivery system. The system, therefore, is potentially subject to infiltration, which could endanger the lives and safety of the public.
Councilor Reardon.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was up there at the request of some neighbors, and I did see not only graffiti on the outbuildings of the reservoir, but on the fence next door to it. And I got to thinking that this is a pretty potentially dangerous situation where it's still hooked up to our water system. Now, number one, that doesn't seem to be going to be the case in the future, as I understand it from the DPW, that we may be taking that offline. But right for now, it is. And more significantly, I think we're in the process of putting Homeland Security has given us a grant to put our communication systems up there. And it seems to me that would be one more thing that would be in danger of being subject to vandalism or destruction. But I think the water system right now, in this day and age, you can't be too careful. And if there's a possibility of putting some video surveillance up there, I think it's well worth it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Reardon. Any other councilors? On the motion, all in favor, all opposed? So votes. We need a motion to accept the 2014 subcommittees. All in favor, all opposed? So voted. Okay, we are about to adjourn, but I just want to tell everybody that next week is going to be a very special city council meeting. We're going to have, since there were very few of us who could make the presentation that Mohegan Sons gave to the Gaming Commission, we are going to run that in its entirety, the 90 minutes, for the first part of our council meeting next week. And this way, all of us can see it, and all of the citizens can see it, because it's a magnificent presentation. And so it's going to start at 6 o'clock. So motion. Do I hear a motion to adjourn? We are adjourned until February 2nd. Is it 3rd? February 3rd.